Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Rune News. I am your host, Ryan, and as always, it's bloody good to have you guys in the audience here today. Jagex is about to change the way Oldschool Runescape functions forever. You guys are about to witness arguably the biggest change in the history of Oldschool Runescape. The combat system has been officially announced with a release date. We're about to see some massive changes, especially to the way that we boss PVM and raid in Oldschool Runescape. So I have one question for you guys to answer down in the comment section below for me today, and that is, which is your favorite raid to do so far in Oldschool Runescape out of Cox, Tob, and TOA? Leave your answer in the comment section down below. Feel free to drop a like and a subscription while you're down there. I'd really appreciate the support. While you guys are down in the comment section discussing your favorite raid in Oldschool Runescape, we have a quick announcement this week on Rune News, and that is that we are sponsored officially this week, not by a raid in Oldschool Runescape, but by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is one of the biggest mobile hero collection RPG games played by over 80 million players across the world, and it is official, ladies and gentlemen. I have made a clan within Raid Shadow Legends, and I need your help to fight alongside me to take out the clan boss, the Hydra. However, before jumping into these clan bosses, any sort of dungeon raids, or competing in PvP arena battles, we have to build a strong Raid Shadow Legends team, and here are two of my favorite champions. First off, we have the Cagebreaker, who we pushed to level 40 already, part of the Ogrin tribes, and can you blame me for him being one of my favorite champions? Look at him, he's a big boy! And then of course we have Elhain, one of the starter champions, a level 50 for us currently, part of the High Elves, who gives us two very good reasons as to why she is our favorite champion in Raid Shadow Legends. And finally, Raid Shadow Legends are celebrating the arrival of spring in Teleria with a special Spring Hunt minigame where they are giving away a bunch of free gaming consoles and Amazon gift cards worth over $10,000. In addition, all new users will get two new packages rewarding two super strong epic heroes. And if that wasn't enough, Raid is also celebrating community weeks dedicated to existing Raid players, where all users will be getting a legendary champion. And make sure you use the promo code SPRINGHUNT24 to get yourself 10 XP brews, 100 energy, and 100,000 silver in Raid Shadow Legends. Thank you very much for Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's episode of Rune News. This week, Jagex made a very rare and unique announcement. This may be the first time in the history of Oldschool RuneScape we've actually seen this from the development team for Oldschool RuneScape, and that is that they have announced that they have postponed this week's update. There's no update this week. They're just going to reboot the servers for the PvP rotor, and that's it. And this is because that there was a critical issue found in testing. And this is something that's quite unique because normally the bugs come into the game and then everyone complains and goes on Twitter and flames the JMods. The fact that they found something in testing this week is a big fat W for the QA team. So there is no update this week, unfortunately, for us to discuss, but that doesn't mean that we can't have Rune News. It just means I've got to figure out somehow I've got to make you guys some content. Got to meet the weekly quota. So I figured we should discuss the upcoming combat changes, because if you notice in the page before this one, they announced that on the 5th of June, we will be receiving the combat rebalance changes, which I believe will be both these blogs I'm showing you today. I think Jagex is rolling them out at the same time, which would make a lot of sense. They've hinted that's pretty much what they're going to do. So the NPC defense changes are pretty straightforward. Basically, they've got a lot of information on the website, which I highly recommend you go check, because they've been just adding to this list constantly. More and more creatures and NPCs in RuneScape are receiving these changes to their defensive stats, and I believe pretty much any new NPC that comes to the game going forward now is going to have some sort of magical, elemental, or like range defining weakness rather than just straight flat range and mage attacks. So, and the quick summary here is that basically metal dragons will be weak to earth, chromatic dragons weak to water, ghosts or anything vaguely that wobbles around is going to be weak to air, along with birds like avian seas. Demons will be weak to water, spiders and scarabs will be weak to fire, and Zora having a weakness applied means that the regular Trident of the Seed should no longer outperform the Harmonized Nightmare, Orb, and Fire Surge, which is, I didn't know that was actually happening, so that's pretty funny. So that's those are just a few changes that are coming mage-wise, elementally. I think the changes for the elemental mage system is very smart, very justified, and it helps just, I guess, add more diversity to the standard spellbook, which obviously does not get enough love. And then the range weaknesses. Now, this is essentially turning range into, rather than being just straight up range is the best attack style, it's going to work like the same way melee does. How melee has slash, stab, and crush. range is going to have light, heavy, and medium, just to, I guess, give more definition and variety to the range aspect of the game. It's not really going to shift too many metas around. It's actually just going to bring the mid-game, I guess, the mid-game gear up a little bit for some content. For example, at Commander Ziliana, it looks like it might be better to use a crossbow over the bow for now because of the way they're changing her range defense work. She'll be more weaker to crossbow bolts than she will to arrows. So there's a good chance that the dragon / armored crossbow will outperform the bowfer. We don't know till we see the numbers, but little things like that, they're just giving range more definition and more purpose, as well as balancing other like combat styles with melee. For example, they're adding a more defining crush weakness to like gargoyles, for example, because you could just whip your way through that. There's no point having a bludgeon. The whip does pretty much the same thing. So that's just they're trying to give more depth and more, again, like just diversity to the combat triangle, but it doesn't really affect best in slot endgame gear. So there's no real buff for like the players that have already achieved it all. But for those looking to achieve and to grind and to play the game casually, you're going to find it. There's a lot more options now with combat, but they are better options. So I hope that makes sense, and that kind of just wraps up the NPC defense changes that are hopefully coming on the 5th of June. However, the more important changes, which I will switch the tab over here now, the item and combat changes. These adjustments are big. These are going to make a lot of changes, and this is really going to flip the game on its head, because we're getting a buffed Eldamore, for example, which is just, it's about fucking time. And it's massive, and I think it is, honestly, like, I think it's the perfect balance to kind of surpass the Dragon Warhammer, which has been overhyped and extremely rare and overpriced for way too fucking long. So, here's the changes that are coming through. Just a quick summary. The Voidwaker special attack is not being touched. Don't worry, they're shelving it for now until they have a new special weapon to announce to kind of compete with it and justify its nerf. So your Voidwakers are safe. Magic damage redistribution. The Occult is getting 5% rather than 10% magic damage, and Eternal Boots will be getting a 1% magic damage boost, and then you guys should know that the distribution is happening elsewhere. I believe all Ancestral pieces are getting a 2% magic damage buff. Virtus, Aram's, Infinity, Dagonhai, the, what's it called? The Blue Moon set from the Peril Moons. They're all getting like a 1% buff in magic damage. The Mage Book's getting a buff. Pretty much everything except the Fortified Ward is getting a buff of some sort, unless it's like Mystic or some garbage, then it's staying as is. So magic is being redistributed, and you are technically, I think you're about 3% better off with this buff across the game completely, unless you are best in slot magic, then you're either 1% better off or 1% worse off. I can't remember now. They basically redistributed it without fucking the shadow any further. So this is really, mid-game it's better, but it's just kind of annoying for Ironman, I guess, when they go for the Occult grind. It doesn't have a lot of meaning now, especially when the Tormented Bracelet isn't getting buffed either. So the changes, long-term and overall, are actually good. Completely unnecessary to nerf the Occult, by the way. It was a dumb change that was mitigated by the idiots at the end game, but they've redistributed it quite acceptably, and I think they've done a good job just making it more relevant. Like the Sears Ring now has a magic damage buff. I don't think Infinity Boots do, but Eternal Boots are getting the 1%, so that's pretty big. And there was something else that's getting buffed, but I can't remember, nor do I care. So, good for magic damage. Nightmare drop rates. The Nightmare is getting a big buff on the drop table. I think it's a 45 to just shy of 50%, I think, like drop rate buff in general. That's for Sunny Nightmare specifically. I'm not sure about the normal Nightmare. Should be somewhat similar. They're both getting buffed. They're now worth grinding, and I'm going to be locking myself in there permanently. Here we go. Look at this. The buff compared to life. For any orb, it's an 87% fucking buff. Look at that, flat out. But for any unique, it's 41.5% buff across the board. I believe that's specific to the Fasani Nightmare, because that was people's more, that was what people were more interested in for Fasani. But the Nightmare is getting a similar buff, just the numbers are different depending on what they've got, what its drop table already says. Sorry, I'm fucking out of breath today. I ran up the stairs earlier, and look, I'm not in the best shape of my life. So please excuse me if there's just a lot of in this video. I'll cut it out, so forget about it. And what else have we got going on here? Right there, this is just a quick rundown. I think, oh yeah, they're changing the monkey puzzle room in TOAs. That way you're kind of max hitting everything. You no longer have a minimum hit of 0, it's now a minimum hit of 1. They're removing the autocast delay on the standard spellbook. They're doing something to the Ancient Godsword. The Sorry Axe is getting a buff. Augury is getting a 4% damage boost, which is huge. I think along with every other magic spell, Magic Pro is getting 1% increments, increasing up to 4 with Augury. And Tob, if you're stuck on a P2 Verzi, don't worry, there's only one red spider now. Probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest updates in the game. Void's getting an upgrade here as well. Like these are all the wrong numbers, by the way, like the 1, 2, and 3%, because this was the very first installment. This is just further down the blog for them, but this is one of the biggest updates and changes to Old School RuneScape and its combat system. It's going to change the way a lot of things work and a lot of metas work in this game forever. And we're going to see some new personal bests, especially in content like Tob and Chambers is there. Probably not so much in TOA. Maybe a little bit with the Monkey Puzzle Room changes, but Cox and Tob, you're definitely going to see some new PBs or some new, like, I guess, new builds. Like, for example, I've just fucked Lizardmen Shamans off completely in Slayer Task now. You don't need the Dragon Warhammer, especially since I've got an Eldermaw. I mean, I've pulled 2. No fucking T-Bow. I'm excited for this update. I want it to happen the 5th of June. I wish it was next week, but, you know, I can wait 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to this fucking update, and you should be too. And if you have any questions or anything you want to discuss, come to my live streams, which I live stream here 5 days a week on this channel. More than happy to help discuss it and just have a good time. Be happy that Jagex is fucking turning the game up to the next level. Also, the Dragon Warhammer is now going to have a 1 in 3,000 drop rate instead of 1 in 5,000. Yeah, still garbage item, still dog shit. Just go for the Eldermaw now. Fuck it. I mean, look. No, I can't really say that because I got spooned Eldermaw, but yeah, fuck the Warhammer. Dog shit. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Grand Exchange segment for Rune News. I am Wade Green, and I'll be your host for the evening. Now, once again, and we're probably going to see this for another at least week or two, the Eldermaw is banging and she's high rising. Look at this, 165 mil. Actually down 1.6 mil over the past few days, but that's understandable. We've plateaued out, but now we have a release date for the weapon. It should be shooting up a little bit more. 200 mil may be the peak ideal price during the release on June the 5th. But I wouldn't invest money in it just in case, because there's a lot of predators out there price gauging and trying to pick apart other people's wallets. But now's a good time to buy the Eldermaw because I don't think it's going to get much lower than this for a very long time. Now, the Blue Moon Tassets are actually falling. This is actually common with all the Blue Moon pieces at the moment, and I recommend maybe investing in this if you are kind of in the early to mid-game mage gear for Old School RuneScape, because they are receiving a magic damage buff, which will be pretty big as a full set. So Mage, Blue Moon Tassets, sorry, for Mage Pants, not a bad buy right now for 2.3 mil. Next, we have the T-Bow rising in price. This is about to hit its peak, then dip to 1.4 bill. Now, the reason this is rising is because, well, there's combat changes coming up, and people are ready to start firing arrows as their, the medium range attack style, ready to take advantage and go full force in some of the best content in the game. And Chambers Eric is about to get some brand new PBs, and the T-Bow is going to be the flagship weapon to carry them across the finish line. And then finally, someone's been dumping mole slippers. This is a troll attempt to try and steal your mole slippers. I do not recommend selling. I recommend investing while they're dropping and while they're bottoming out. This is people trying to price gouge and predatorize what will be predators and jump on top of you guys for essentially pumping and dumping mole slippers. Now, this isn't a pyramid scheme. This is not a pump and dump. These are not designed to make people, I guess, money at the top of the pyramid. This is a full party circle. Everyone should be involved. You want to be as high as possible on the mountain to make the most money, but mole slippers are being used at the moment by the wrong people to try and steal your money. So I recommend either holding or investing while they're dropping in price, because they will be hitting 30 mil this time next year. Mark my words, or unsubscribe. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a Wade Green guarantee. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night. Our first Ironman moment for the week goes to Mr. Shri, and he got a jar of sand or a jar of dirt. He got 2 jars. Like, I don't care. This is a shit moment to share. Don't do it again. No one cares about jars. Now here we have Flyback. His username is 208V, and he's actually an Ironman. He achieved his first fire cape. I think it was his second attempt. He was bragging about it in the clan chat, but I honestly was not reading it. I just assumed he was spamming Easto V2. But Easto's just got an incredibly hot sister. And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, we have a hardcore Ironman here pulling Ranger boots. But let's just take a second to notice that he's got his phone and just taken a picture of his fucking monitor. It's a Windows computer, Windows 11, judging by the toolbar down below, and he doesn't use snipping tool. You've got to be shitting me. Why are you taking pictures with your phone than uploading it. Just take a fucking screenshot. Snipping tool, like if you don't want to do or you don't know the hotkeys, just search snipping tool. It's a default Windows program and save it to your taskbar. Then you're set. Just click it, drag, and you're done. Jesus. Anyways, speaking of disappointing news, that is the end of Rune News this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching, and a big thank you again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this week's episode of Rune News. My name is Ryan. You guys are all champions. I know I didn't really stress or push the fact that you're watching Rune News this week because I wanted to keep it humble, keep it quick. But next week, we will have Rune News, which you will be watching Rune News. So thank you very much this week for watching Rune News. You're watching Rune News, and you're watching Rune News. This is the easiest room in the raid. It's quite simple. You got a big boy. Look at him. God damn. Fuck me. Look at that boy.